Welcome back to the channel, lads and ladies, and welcome to a replay sent in by Bigyin13.
That's right, you cubby bastard!
We'll just call him Biggie for now. Check out Bigyin13's channel. Sorry, my accent isn't quite the best on the pronunciation of that name. However, Bigyin is going to be, well, he's going to begin to do well here in the warrior, but, well, at this point, he has a little bit further to go. Misses with the ATGM, and as he opens up with the main cannon on the Object 120, he gets taken down by a USSR, what's it called? IFV, Infantry Fighting Vehicle. I think it was a BMP, but not quite sure. Anyway, now he's positioning himself again in the warriors, as he gets a nice revenge kill on the BMP. Nicely done with the ATGM. Having used a backup vehicle to play in the warrior once again, Bigyin appears to be using the strategy of going out in a lower SP cost vehicle and forming SP. Perhaps he's working on unlocking the modules for the warrior, although it appears he does have the good APDS ammunition and the what would you call it, the ATGM launcher seems to be working just fine, so he has the priority upgrades in my humble opinion. One of the interesting things about the warrior is that it's a bit more mobile than most of the units you'll have access to with the British, so it's a good speedy boy. It tends to do well when you have a number of teammates to support you, as it has something of a longer reload on its ATGM, and it has that scouting mechanic where you can point out targets for your allies. Looks like Bigyin was using that scouting there. French tank, so he'll soon be retreating into a smokescreen.
Come on, let's go, come on.
And Bigyin is just opening fire into that smokescreen, en provenance. So, he, how's my French? Is it completely irresponsible? He does manage to take down that AMX with some blind fire into the smoke. The AMX missed his return shot as Bigyin just ducked into cover after firing the first time. A clever move on his part, and you'll notice a few very clever positionings that Biggie ends up doing to allow him to get the best of his enemies, just outthinking them in that close game strategy, which has been really interesting for me to watch as someone who always has an eye out for new tricks that I can try out myself. Speaking of, Biggie does end up using the shot. Oh, actually, watch this shot. This is a thing of beauty. He dips the ATGM under the terrain to get at that depressed T-44, who's probably a little bit more depressed now that his vehicle's been completely cursploid. Interesting to see the range of battle ratings you get in people's second and third string lineup. Biggie definitely has a good lineup of vehicles here. He takes out one of the, I think it's an 8.0 British jet. You won't be seeing gameplay of that. He also brings out Shot Cal, and things happen to it, so you won't be seeing that either. Not a lot accomplished in those vehicles, but it does show off the lineup that Biggie has available to him. Once again, he's got backups on his warrior, which is not a bad strategy at all. The IFVs are a really interesting addition to War Thunder. I'm very pleased with them. They really flesh out the meta of higher tier gameplay. I'm not a top tier player, but I do love to see more soft targets with versatile firepower coming to the game that don't have helicopter blades attached to them. Check this out. He used the artillery to cover his advance, and then as soon as that smoke screen was up, or debris field if you will, he pops out and immediately blind fires that ATGM into the Soviet IFV. Very nicely done, and again, this is a war of positioning This is a war of strategy. Bigyin is closing into close range and duking it out with some very powerful vehicles that just don't have the fire rate to afford to miss, as he gets the trap shot down into the IS-3 to take him down. So far, very impressive show from Biggie on his second life in the Warrior, definitely making an impact on the battle. You can see that the capture points are pretty well evenly matched, and that's something you see a bit more often in the higher tier battles. People are much less aggressive when it comes to capturing the points because there are many very agile, very powerful vehicles that can make you pay for revealing your position in that way. Now Biggie is using the wall of cheese to protect himself. It's a cheese wall because you can see over it, but from the right angles and distances the enemy cannot, so use that cheese to your advantage. Squeeze that for all it's worth as he takes down an Object 120. Always glad to see those Russian behemoths get popped. And now at this point he spots a ZSU.
Spot, what are you doing?
What are you doing, Biggie? He pops out of cover before opening fire, and he gets the business as the ZSU, the Shilka, opens up with some counter battery fire, but he does manage to take him down. That was something of a risky move by Biggie. Personally, I would have aimed my frontal armor toward the enemy. He does have something of thicker armor in that area of his vehicle, and I probably would have fired through the wall, giving myself just that small advantage when it comes to getting that first shot off. The Shilka, very fast at gun handling, with even a stabilizer and 4 23mm cannons that can fairly efficiently punch through Biggie's side armor, so that was definitely something of a gamble. Luckily it did pay off for Biggie, although he lost a crew member in the process. I believe that was his driver, as well as taking some critical damage to his vehicle, which he was able to quickly repair. Now back on the prowl, Biggie is looking for targets that he can engage unawares, or anything he can quickly tap with his ATGM, which is one of the things that makes the Warrior such a fun and versatile vehicle, especially for the British. As Biggie takes a shot into the side, even a second from a ZSU that has the larger cannons. Where are they? 56mm, something like. They're big guns for that thing, and well, you will recognize this Russian bias mobile shortly, as Biggie goes for the side skirt to get a shot around the corner on the advancing enemy. He aims with the ATGM, but fails to account for the fact that it's mounted on the right side of the turret, hitting the wall, but he does finish off the ZSU with his main gun, which has plenty of punch through to get through the rather thin armor on that so-called SPAA's turret, as he gets some shots and then a rocket into that Soviet medium tank with 2 allies in tow, the enemy being surrounded and destroyed immediately. He definitely realized he made a tactical mistake with that placement, and Yuri is back into the hangar, soon to Gulag. However, the enemy team continues to push through the battlefield. Lots of respawns on these enemy vehicles. There were lots and lots of targets to take down. Biggie's going to get around 10 kills in this match, as well as another teammate getting a similar number, as Biggie gets a nice ammo rack on that AMX. All the ammo being stored in the turret with rather thin armor. Well, that thing is just not designed to take a hit, and Biggie definitely benefits from that fact. Once more catching the enemy unawares as he was engaging with Biggie's allies. Positioning, map awareness, tactical maneuvering, these are all things you can see very clearly from the gameplay in this video. It's very interesting for me to watch this, as I've watched several times through the course of editing this video. You can tell I did a little bit of fancy editing. You're welcome. And I definitely wanted to show off something like this. I love learning how people survive, even do well in top tier gameplay, or high tier, as this is higher than 8.0. And it's always been a scary place for me. Watching videos like this, though, make me feel like I could get into it. As we see, one of those SU-122 something or others closing with Biggie. He's already been crippled. Both his main gun and his roof-mounted Dushka have been taken down by counter fire. Now Biggie repositioning himself to get good side shots on the enemy tank destroyer. It is proving rather difficult to take down, as a few shots go into the ammunition to no real effect. Finally taken down, but Biggie, being distracted, gets wiped out. Things happened, and we skip ahead to a few minutes later in the battle. The enemy team holding the field with all 3 capture points, and it is carry or die time. Biggie, already with a significant number of kills, assists, and even base caps, is going to need to step up or step forward or die. This is going to be an extremely close match as the tickets bleed down. I thought this was going to be a loss, and I was amazed with the result that Biggie was able to accomplish here, so stay tuned for that. At this point in the battle, things shift into a different gear. It's no longer about racing through the battlefield and getting those side shots on distracted enemies. It's much more likely to be a one-on-one or a one-on-two situation here, as the enemy team has the numbers advantage and the positioning. They can be wherever they want to be, and they'll definitely outspeed Biggie's vehicle at this point. This famous British tank being, well, not the strongest at this battle rating, especially in an offensive role, as you see Biggie struggling to cross this terrain, definitely moving in a way that I wouldn't expect, and he's definitely going to need that advantage moving forward in this match, playing a bit more cautiously than perhaps is urgent at this point, as the enemy is still holding a cap point advantage and draining those points quickly. Biggie is going to need to close and capture a point, but first he's got to deal with this enemy tank. Being very careful here, Biggie has already spawned in 2 vehicles that I didn't show you, but we talked about, and so his respawn points are likely drained significantly. He might not have another chance to get into the battlefield before the match is over, even if he does have the respawn points. So he needs to make this shot. He needs to make this a win. And also, if he reveals his lower plate to the enemy, it's curtains for him. I say curtains. So, getting the APDS on target and getting that critical hit is essential. A nice shot through the center of the enemy vehicle takes down several of the crew and sets him afire. Not the instant kill that we were hoping for, but definitely not a bad start. Can he finish off the enemy? He takes a hit. Fire in the engine compartment, as now he knows the enemy has used his shot. Still, Biggie is facing some serious issues as he puts out the fire. He's been tracked, immobilized, with an enemy at close quarters, just waiting to get that reload advantage over him. Biggie should get the faster reload as he took down the loader of the enemy tank, and British tanks tend to have slightly faster reload than a lot of their contemporaries. A hit going directly into the ammo rack of the enemy tank takes him down, giving Biggie that chance to sway this battle in his team's favor. Now, with his allies capturing points and doing what they can, the lead is starting to move back into the favor of Biggie's team. The allies definitely suffering here at the hands of some very aggressive Russians or USSR opponents. To no one's surprise, they've been very aggressive. They've pushed the field. So many of those medium tanks that can perform so well not so well if they get ammo racked from behind, so that was nice to see. Always satisfying to see those Soviet medium tanks ammo rack actually exploding. For those of us that have suffered through the heart-wrenching failures of the past. And look at the tickets. It is definitely do or die now. Not only will they lose if the enemy captures another zone, or if Biggie had wasted just a few more seconds in getting to that point. By the way, apologies to to Bigyin if you don't like being called Biggie. So it's just something that's easier for me to say. And to remember, I'm horrible, absolutely horrible with names. Look at that. Not only will they lose if they don't hold on to these capture points, but if Biggie's team loses 1 or 2 more people, it's the end of the match for them. This is coming down to the very wire. The enemy team running low on vehicles at the hands of 2 very aggressive, very effective players on Biggie's team, himself and another ally. That I didn't show you in this video, but the both of them racking up a significant number of kills, respawning several times, showing that they have that lineup to back up their activities in this match. And at top tier, of course, having a well fleshed out lineup is even more important, as you'll often face people that have multiple vehicles to bring into the fight. Speaking of, Biggie gets a nice shot into that enemy medium tank. Or did it get eaten by the logs? If he dies here, oh, whew. Lucky, quick reload there before the enemy could take him down. Not sure if he got a hit on that first shot and it just didn't get registered in the replay. That happens sometimes, but it was definitely essential that he take down that enemy tank. That was the deciding showdown of the match. Biggie's team is going to win this one. He survives the strafing fire from what sounded like a MiG, judging from the guns, the tempo of that fire. Not quite enough to punch through the turret armor of the Challenger. Challenger? Chieftain? I get confused. I'm going to go with Challenger. I'm probably wrong, but it would have been enough to punch through the engine deck, so that is something to watch out for. As we watch the points drain from the enemy team, they're not able to field a ground vehicle to capture a point and finish this one off, so it's going to be GG, WP, and it really doesn't come any closer than that. Big thanks to Bigyin13 for sending in this replay into my email. You can also drop replays into my Discord server, and I definitely enjoyed making this video. I was looking forward to something exciting like this, and there really isn't much more to say other than well done. Catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.